Today we have something a little special for you. I was sent this giant box of tooling from Walter Tools. And today on Shop Talk, we are going to be going through unboxing this giant box of tools from Walter and taking a look at what we've got. What's up guys? Ian Sandusky from Lakewood Machine Tool. And before we get back into this for Practical Machinist, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so as promised, we have this giant box full of tools. A little backstory on this. So for those of you who don't know or maybe missed it, I got to go down to the Walter Tools Wisconsin Technology Center in Waukesha. That was a couple months ago. There was a Walter Tools event I was invited down to host with a couple of the guys there called Mastering Indexable Milling. Really, really cool event. It was a global event. We were going through all their new and existing indexable milling lines. So, you know, the Walter Blacks, the Extra Tech XT line, all these different lines that are really, really cool for indexable stuff. And I hosted that with a good friend of mine, John Jansen. He's the Walter Tools Technology Center manager. He ran the Wisconsin Center, and I believe, so that Wisconsin Center, they were moving it over to North Carolina, and they do all kinds of crazy tool tests there. They do application stuff for customers, so you can send a part, they'll test out Walter Tools on it, give you a report. So they have a bunch of tools down there that they, I guess, didn't really want to move over to North Carolina. So my good friend John decided to put some of them in a box for me and send them up. So we're going to be going through some of the stuff they sent up. I will admit that I got a little overexcited if you've been paying attention to my Instagram, and we did run some of this stuff before I went through all of it. But that is good because we do have some videos of this stuff actually running, which is really, really cool. So I'm gonna start grabbing stuff out of this box and we're gonna start taking a look at what we've got here. So the first thing I see, I'm gonna grab just the biggest tool I see here. This is, we call them a U-drill. It's an insertable drill. This is the Walter B4213. These are pretty cool. These you can use in a lathe or in a mill. Really, it's more of a lathe tool at my shop. We have some similar, but nothing this big. These are cool because this is, for those of you guys maybe who don't use this kind of stuff, most drills have points. This doesn't have a point, but it doesn't need one. It has these two inserts that you can see are cantilevered out just a little bit, which means you can plunge that straight into your workpiece. Because this has carbide inserts, you typically don't want to peck so much with these because it can shock the inserts, but that's a good thing because that means you can feed this straight into the part, and since we do have through coolant holes on this, all those chips are going to come straight out the back. It means you can remove a lot of material very, very quickly, and with these, cool thing you can do with them, especially in a lathe, never tried it in a mill, but when the workpiece is spinning, you can go and feed this tool in, plunge it straight in. And since it has this insert on the outside, you can use that essentially like a boring bar. So you can feed it in, rough your hole out, and then take it to the perfect tight tolerance size you want with that other insert all in the same tool. No tool changing. We use this style of drill a lot. I'm excited to try this one out because we don't have one this big. The ones we have are probably more similar to one like this size. You can see this is another one of these. This is a B4213. You can see it has that same insert pattern. It's got that same through coolant. So we got coolant coming straight from the back all the way out the front. Really good for smaller applications. And I do see we have one that is even smaller. This one I would say is around 3/4. This one I would say is probably closer to about 5/8. And you can see that insert pattern. And you can see one of these here, it has the gold inserts. For Walter, I really, really like these. They're the Tiger Tech Gold line. For those of you guys who don't use a lot of inserted stuff, when you're dealing with stuff with darker inserts, so not gold, gold is a pretty good color for inserts, because when you're dealing with darker stuff, you don't see the wear as easily. These gold inserts, they're really, really handy because as that coating starts to wear, you can identify how your tool life is doing and switch them out before they break. With some darker colored inserts, you kind of have to look a little closer, see if the edge is starting to wear down, see if it's chipping out. That kind of short circuits that, which is nice. We use quite a bit of Walter Tiger Tech Gold in here at the moment. So moving on from those drills, let's grab out another drill here. This is a giant insertable drill. This is another style of insertable drill. This one, again, you could use in the lathe. I'd probably be more apt to use this one in a mill over the other. This is a Walter B4013. You can see this whole big section here is a carbide insert. You got these huge channels running right through the tool for your through coolant. These are really handy because you get the benefits of a carbide drill without paying for, you know, carbide X thick by Y long. That would be a very, very expensive tool. You'd be talking, you know, $300-400 from my guys if that was a carbide drill, probably even more at that size. That's over 1 inch. This allows you to get that same kind of carbide performance, but you only have to switch out that one insert. Really, really good if you're doing high production, because then you're not having a lot of downtime trying to switch out heads or take out drills and resharpen them. With these, you can just switch out the heads. Again, very, very good for taking a lot of material out very quickly. Everybody knows drilling is, when it comes down to it, probably the fastest way to get rid of material very, very quickly. There's very little else that can come close. So this is really good for those kind of applications. And again, we're gonna go slightly smaller. We have another one that looks kind of like that. I believe it is the same. Yeah, it's a 4015. Same thing, we got that smaller insert on there. So we got this much length that is that steel body, and we do have the carbide tip. Again, I'd probably be more apt to use this in a mill than the lathe, just because of the way we do things, but you could probably use it in both. That's a WMP 35 insert on there. Really good for just ramming through holes really, really quickly. Moving on to some more drills, because let's stay on that topic, because holy, this box is full. We have a A33 2XPL Extreme drill. These are really, really cool. We got a few sizes of these in here. You can see one that's a little smaller. We got these all the way down. It looks like these are mostly metric sizing. So you can see we go smaller. These are really, really cool. I've actually seen these in action at Walter many, many times before. I'll hold that up so you guys can see it. But these are carbide drills. You can feel it's very, I mean, you can't feel it, but I can. Very, very heavy. It's got a specialized coating on there, and that has through coolant right through the drill. Through coolant drills and carbide drills are amazing in circumstances when you can use them, because you generally don't need to peck, because that thing will just ram straight through work pieces. Obviously carbide tools better for harder materials as well. You could probably ram this through tool steel, 304 stainless, 316. These are really, really good for harder applications. And you can see this actually has the corners of the drill relieved, which means you're less likely to blow off those corners. Really excited to take these through their paces. I've seen them before a lot. I have not used them before, but I am very, very excited to give them a shot. One thing that was really cool, and I was really excited to see this in here, there's a video here on Practical Machinist that we did with Sarang. He is the, I believe he's the drilling product owner down at Walter, and he does a lot of tool tests for super deep drilling. You know, we're talking 30, 40, 50 times D. And he did a video on a case study they did for a super deep hole drilling application. And while I think they went even longer than this, I was very excited to see a drill very similar to the one that I saw in that video. Again, so this thing's probably 8-9 inches long, could be even longer. I don't have my measuring tape on me, but that thing has through coolant, and you can see that has those little holes in the back, so that coolant can go all the way through that drill. Very, very important if you're doing super deep holes that you are getting good coolant to the drill, because if that is all the way in the part, aside from through coolant, unless you're retracting it every single time, I don't know how you could even get coolant down into there. So that's really exciting. I don't know if I'm gonna have an application for this, but I'm probably gonna run it in something just because I can. Why not? It's fun. We do have some other long drills here. There's another one with the through coolant. Again, very, very heavy, robust drills. But moving on from there, let's go grab some of these. This was a really cool application. I've wanted to use these for a while. I've been skeptical because I have, not from Walter specifically, but from all tool manufacturers about these. And these are the exchangeable head end mills. I have never used these before. I'm very excited to take them through their paces, but here's what we're looking at. So this is a body, this is the AK610. You can see this here. It's got through coolant, it looks like, if you want it. I would imagine that's what that hollow is for. And it is threaded on the inside. Now, the cool thing about this is you get these little heads. They're small and it is difficult to show to you guys on my little camera here. But you get these little exchangeable heads. Now what's cool about these is if you look at it, that is a thread on the back end that actually tapers in. And that's some kind of chamfer mill. It looks like it's probably about 60, 70 degree. So what you can do is you take this little head and you screw it right on the body. Now I have a cutting tool that can perform like an end mill or a chamfer mill, but only this little part is carbide. Now I did talk to John about this when I was down in Wisconsin because, you know, I was just bouncing some ideas off him and I saw one of these on the shelf and I said, how do those things actually work? And of course he said they work great. And I said, but you know, one thing that I'm always curious about is it's nice that you can change these in and out all day long, but what's the repeatability on them? And John's a guy who's seen a ton of these things. He's tested a ton of them out. He deals with customers and he says the worst repeatability he's ever seen on these is in the microns. So in other words, you can have one of these in the machine, you screw one off, screw a new one back on, and essentially it is at the exact same location. It's got something to do with the taper on there and the way it locks in. I'm very, very excited to try these out because essentially you're only paying for this much carbide as opposed to all this carbide. And with a tool like this where you have, you know, a chamfer mill, you're probably only going to use that amount of the carbide. You're not going to use all of this unless you're using it like a drill mill. So it's an exciting prospect to be able to use this. When it burns out, you throw it away and you get a new one and screw it on. The cool thing about this too is not only do we have a short version like this, but we have longer versions. This is a Walter Tools AK610. And if you guys can see this here, this is what I would call a vibration dampening extension essentially for this exchangeable head. This has a more square profile standard milling cutter on it. Looks like it has a radius on it. But this is actually carbide sintered into there. So when you're doing really long stuff, if you're using an end mill this long, you're gonna get a ton of vibration, especially at a diameter like that. They have engineered these kind of things in order to dampen the vibration right in the bar. So you can go and work just with that little end of that tool all the way down and apart without it kicking out, especially when you're trying to have tight tolerance stuff. That's really, really important. And if we want to go even bigger than that, I laughed when I opened the box and saw this. It was amazing. Look at this. This is another AK610. That is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 flute. 8 flute cutter. Again, we have that body that you can put on and off with a wrench. That is very, very large. I don't know if I can see a diameter on this. It is 1 inch, 1 inch. So again, a lot of the tools, when you're using a tool that is 1 inch full of carbide, that's an expensive tool. If you're only using the bottom of it and you can switch this out, you're gonna save a lot of money. And you know, with a tool like that, that's gonna hog out a lot of material very quickly, especially in hard applications. And I did get, so not only does it come with milling cutters like that, we got one here. This is more of a chamfer mill or a drill mill. They come in these nice little cases. Just gonna open a couple of these cases for you here because I found these very cool. They have versions with serrations in them. These, in my opinion, you use for, it's kind of like the old corn cob mills. You use that for hogging material out very, very quickly. Probably not a finisher. For a finisher, you probably want to use something like this. That is a 6 flute carbide. Let's grab another one here. I got lots of these little boxes and I want to make sure I show all of them to you. Ooh, this one's cool. That is a, sorry I'm counting flutes for you guys here while I'm looking at these. That is an 8 flute chamfer head. Very, very cool. I don't know when you're gonna use that over something else, but I'm excited to try it out. It's here, I'm gonna try it. We use a lot of chamfer mills here. Typically we use solid carbide and I've been looking for a good exchangeable head system for a bit for that, so I'm excited to try that. Again, we have a couple more of these. These are just chamfer heads. I'm probably gonna get these in the machine literally today. doing some work because I want to give them a shot. We got some standard milling heads. These ones are 4-flute. So this is kind of your normal job shop. We use a lot of 4-flute carbide end mills here. This is kind of your standard job shop version of these tools. I say job shop because they're versatile. You know, 5-flute you might use a lot, 6-flute you might use a lot, 4-flute you can use for just about everything. We got a 6-flute version with a corner rad. Very, very cool. We got a couple of those here in there, and you can see they all have that same exact profile on the back to attach. And we got a couple more of those, but I think they're pretty much all duplicates. Oh, we got a 2-flute version. I will show you this. This is 2-flute with a rad. That's a very, very cool profile. I will have to talk to John to figure out exactly when and how I should be using that, but that's a very cool exchangeable head. It's got a very odd profile on it, so I'm excited to find out why that is there. So moving on from the solid carbide stuff, actually, do you know what? We got some more solid carbide stuff. Let's take a look. Walter recently bought Mellon. Mellon is an end mill manufacturer, so we have some Mellon tools, solid carbide end mills here. That's a 3-fluter. It is a Mellon EMG 40. These are really good. We use 3-flute end mills like this a lot for aluminum. For those of you guys who don't know, we used to be a high finish aluminum specialist shop, essentially. We used to do a lot of stuff for high finish visibility, anodized aluminum parts for the office furniture industry. So we have a lot of aluminum stuff we still do here. These are really good for that, really good finishes. We actually have tested Mellon before and I really like them. So I'm very excited that there are a few of those in this box. Sticking with solid carbide, this is a thread mill. This is a TC260. This is a solid carbide thread mill. See all those little knobs on there? You use this, for those of you guys who haven't used them before, in a helixing tool path in order to thread things instead of using a tap. Some guys like insertable versions of this. Insertable versions tend to be a little slower because they may only be single or double point. This, you can get that entire profile. You may only need to helix that, you know, 1, 2, 3 passes in order to get, you know, 1.5 inches of threads in there. It doesn't look like it tapers, so it looks like the bottom thread should be the same as the top thread. So you should be able to just hit the bottom of your threads, retract, and you're good to go. I've never used one that looks like this, so again, I'm excited to try it out. I'm excited to try a lot of this stuff out, guys, so if you hear me saying that, I'm sorry, but I'm like a kid in a candy store today. For solid carbide, we also have some pretty standard looking end mills. That looks like a fairly tight helix 4-flute end mill. That's solid carbide. It is an 8 mil. A lot of this stuff tends to be metric, it's looking like. So we're gonna have to change some of my programs because we mostly work in Imperial despite being Canadian, the terrible Canadians that we are. And now let's move on to some of the insertable stuff. Now, some of the stuff you guys may have seen on my Instagram channel already, my Instagram account, because we got very excited and started using it. The first one I want to show to you guys immediately is something that we have been absolutely destroying material with. I can't show you one of these because it's actually in a machine right now, but this is a Walter Black's shoulder mill. What a shoulder mill is it is not center cutting. That's kind of the difference between this and some other mills. It is meant for cutting around the shoulder of a part. So if you have your workpiece, it's meant for ramping in or ramping down. Now, the really cool thing about these, and I have another one here I can show you, but I'll just hold this one up close, is this has the tangentially mounted inserts. What a tangentially mounted insert is on a standard indexable mill, I guess, like this one here. This is a Walter F4042. I actually think that might be a high feed mill, in other words. But if you look at the insert goes straight through the center of the screw goes straight through the center of the insert. This is pretty typical. The problem with it, or an issue with it in higher demand environments, is that if you look right beside the screw, there's a very weak spot there, you know, comparably, where that screw comes kind of close to the edge of the part. Especially for shoulder milling with it, a lot of times you can see inserts crack in there. It's fine for when you're using the bottom of the tool, but when you're doing a shoulder application, you want some more rigidity there. And that's why these Walter Blacks have a tangentially mounted insert. Tangential means through the side. or perpendicular. So instead of the insert screw going through the front, it goes through the side, which means that entire cutting face is carbide. And because of that, because the insert is thicker than it is the cutting edge, it has a lot more strength behind the cut. And I will definitely attest to this. We'll throw up a video of one of these cutting. You can take some gnarly cuts with these, way more than I thought I would. I'll be honest with you guys, I get shown a lot of tools. I get sent tools to try out. Very rarely have I seen a tool that makes me kind of shake my head and go, why weren't we using this sooner? 100%, these shoulder mills, we have a bigger version with the next size up size of insert. We were taking 100 thou step over, 400 thou depth, or sorry, 400 thou depth of cut, 100 thou step overs, feeding at 65 inches a minute in steel. We were hogging down these giant blocks. Again, we'll throw up a bit of footage here. But we were hogging down these blocks. If we had done it with a traditional, you know, tricordial milling or adaptive clear program, probably would have taken, let's call it 2 hours each. We were getting these things roughed down in like 30 minutes. It was one of the few times I've seen something that has absolutely blown my mind. And we are gonna be using these all the time for high removal of material very, very quickly. So that's a shoulder mill. It's a Walter Black series. With that same kind of insert, these are super cool and I've never used one. Check this out. This is a helical inserted cutter, again from the Walter Black's line. So you can see it has inserts, it's almost like an end mill, but instead of having one cutting edge, it has inserts all the way down. And it's got those same tangentially mounted inserts as that shoulder mill. The other thing you can see here, guys, is everywhere you see these little holes, that's for through coolant. So this is for taking really, really big cuts, removing an absolute ton of material very, very quickly. And because it has that profile that allows it to get coolant everywhere, it keeps it very, very cool throughout the cut. I have not used one of these yet. I actually have to get a holder that will hold one this size. And we do have one that's slightly larger, as you can see. These just make me laugh because they look like overkill. But when you see them run, I saw one of these run down at the Walter Tech Center. It blows your mind. These things were going through austenitic stainless like nothing. So very excited to try them out. Have to figure out an application for it. This is kind of specialized, but I'm very excited to try it. The next insertable thing we have here, we do have some high feed mills. So you can see here, it has that insert cantilever back for high feed. This is a Walter 2-inch diameter FS 1453. This would be good for high feed, so you're feeding really, really fast using chip thinning. You're trying to do tricordial passes with that. This is for removing a lot of material very, very quickly. Great for die work. Again, for the high feed mill, I believe this is a high feed mill. You can tell kind of by the cantilevered insert. I would believe it is as well. That's a Walter F4042. Again, it has those Tiger Tech Gold inserts. We have a larger, I would call this a feed mill as well. This is an Extra Tech XT. This is used for removing a lot of material very quickly. And the cool thing about the Walter Tech XT, these are for extended life. So these are made for companies that can't afford downtime or have a lot of unattended running. So you can feel safe putting this in your machine at 4:00 p.m., hit and go, coming in the next day, and your inserts are still gonna be there. That's kind of what these are developed for. I have not given this one a shot yet, but I'm very excited to try it out. Sticking with the insertable stuff, we have these octagon mills. These are really, really cool. These I would call a face mill. Octagon mills are very, very good. We call them octagon mills or hexagon mills, depending on the style of the insert, because it has these inserts that look like octagons. These give really, really nice surface finishes. This is a F4080, 55 millimeter diameter. We also have a smaller version of this one. Again, really good for facing things down, getting really high finishes on those. We have this one here. This is a Walter Black's F055. This is a slotting cutter. You can see it's kind of like a slitting saw. It has all these inserts on the outside. You can tell we actually ran this one already again because we had a hot job we needed to use it for. But you can see it has all these inserts as opposed to your usual brazed or sintered carbide teeth on a slitting saw. Allows for very, very high material removal rates. We're actually using this to make a slot I mean, you can see it on there almost all the way to the bottom of the cutter. Very impressed with this one so far. We're gonna be putting it through its paces. We were running it a little conservatively because I've never run one before. So we're actually gonna speed it up and see what we can do with it. And lastly, we have a whole bunch of taps in here. Some really cool taps in here. I have not used these yet. I have used Walter taps in the past, but you can see they are through coolant. That can be very handy when you're dealing with, you know, machining, tapping a lot of holes where you don't have time to go slap tapping oil on it every time. Helps get the chip out of the hole. We got a bunch of taps like that. We got some plug taps that also have that through coolant, and a bunch more of odds and sods. We got a Capto holder. My lathe doesn't actually use Capto, but this is a Capto holder with a, this is for a lathe. I believe they were using this on a DMG, but this has those same, I believe they're the Walter TigerTech silver inserts. This one has been used for a tool test, I believe. I will probably use it on my new lathe. We have a new lathe coming in the new year that probably is gonna have Capto. You can see it does have through coolant that goes all the way to that cutting edge. So it's gonna be spraying coolant up at that part the entire time. All right, guys, now that we've gone through the mystery box, let's go take a look at one of these Walter cutters in action. So here we have that Walter Black's 3-inch diameter shoulder mill with the tangentially mounted inserts. We are going through steel here, reworking a part that needed modified. We're taking a 400 thou depth of cut with a 150 thou step over. This is our first time using this cutter, so we're proving out this program. You can see that that back feed should be turned up quite a bit, but you can see the cutting here, nice blue chips. All that heat is going straight into the chip. This thing is absolutely ripping through that steel. Make sure you stay tuned to Walter and to my Instagram and to the Practical Machinist channel, because we are gonna be putting up lots of videos of these things running. Thank you very much to Walter for sending these along. I am dying to give them a shot. Some of the stuff we've already tried out has been great. I'm a little afraid to run some of the stuff that I don't know how to run, so I'm gonna be giving them lots of calls. But hopefully this has been fun for you guys. Make sure you check them out, and thank you very much for watching. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Thank you very much, guys. You take care.